presence of more than 200 delegates attending.
The closing ceremony and as well as the dinner receptions, and it is going to be spectacular, so do save your energy for that. Well, Excellencies, Ambassador, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the special keynote sessions is about to start in 4 minutes, but before that I would like to go over a few housekeeping rules. So very similar to yesterday, kindly switch your mobile devices to silent mode during the conference. And if you want to engage with our moderators and with our speakers, feel free to raise your hand to bring up your questions. Participants online, feel free to drop your questions in the Zoom Q&A chat box, or you could also insert your questions in the comment sections on our live feed on YouTube and Facebook. South China Sea Studies Ong Nghiên cứu Biển Đông in Vietnamese. And our program, once again, is available in both languages. So if you need a headphone, please refer to the table on the side of the conference room for the headphones. And if you are online, feel free to use the Zoom interpretation functions. And when addressing questions, please indicate your name as well as your affiliations. And also, because today is the second day and we have a full schedule with a lot of activities coming up, so for the interest of time, I would like to kindly remind all of us to keep respect to the time limit, which will be shown on the TV screen here. Thank you for your kind attention. Okay, ready to go? Okay. Excellencies, Ambassador, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second day of the 16th South China Sea Conference hosted by the Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam. And just similar to day one, today's program will be started with a very special keynote sessions, and it is my honor to invite His Excellencies Mr. Andrew Goletzinowski, Australian Ambassador to Vietnam, to moderate the special keynote sessions. Ambassador, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Ambassador Andrew, Ambassador of Australia, it's my great pleasure to be invited back here for the third time. As you've seen from your program, this morning's themes have a legal flavor. Maybe that's why some of our colleagues have chosen to spend more time at the breakfast buffet this morning. But while we're waiting for them to come in, let me just make some preliminary comments. First of all, breaking news, just in, reading from the BRICS official Twitter account from Russia, BRICS officially adds 13 new nations to the alliance as partner countries. And this alliance now includes several countries from this region, including Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. Now, I'm not sure what the alliance means for our themes here today, but maybe that'll be of relevance to some speakers. A second related point I want to make is that when we talk about UNCLOS and the law of the sea, this is something that ASEAN has been intimately involved in. Many people think of Ambassador Tommy Koh as the father of UNCLOS because he chaired the successful negotiation sessions for that. And apropos that, I also want to say that Vietnam has recently nominated for the very first time a candidate for ITLOS. Professor Nguyen Thi Lanang is not with us today because I think she's just landing in New York as we speak. I'm not in a position to indicate Australia's voting intention, but I am able to welcome the fact that Vietnam has proposed a quality candidate such as Professor Lanang for this important position, and we wish her well. Our two keynote speakers this morning are Judge Horinuchi Hidehisa, who's here with me today, who is a member of ITLOS and has had a long and varied career in both diplomacy and law. And our second keynote speaker, who is joining us online from Canada, is Assistant Deputy Minister of National Defence, Scott Miller. And he also has a very diverse background, which includes law enforcement and border management. Both of their bios are in your packs. And I now have great pleasure to invite Judge Hidehisa to make his remarks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I'm Judge Horinocho of Itoros International Tribunal for Law of the Sea, and it's my great pleasure to talk to you today at the 16th South China Sea International Conference. And because my time is very limited, 10 minutes, so I'd like to get started right away. And my theme today is evolving UNCLOS. Oops. Well, the UNCLOS was, as all you know, that done in 1982, and it is called the Constitution for the Ocean. And why is it Constitution? Because it governs all activities in the oceans. For example, till that Convention 82, that there has been a confusion, a kind of conflict about the legality of the exclusive economic zone those days. But this convention puts very clear-cut and common understanding on the territorial water, contiguous zone, exclusive economic zone, and continental shelf and the high sea, and provided for the rights and obligations of those each maritime zones. So it helped and contributed a lot for the rule-based international order on the oceans. And also this convention brought a new idea for the fishery conservation. It's called TAC, the Total Allowable Catch. So it was a turning point from the taking all fishery to the conservation, sustainable fishery. But also, on the other hand, this convention kept the very core of the law of the sea. That is the freedom of navigation, and also that the jurisdiction of the flag states to their ships on the high sea. And also this convention covers the continental shelf and brought new idea about the straits, the international straits and archipelago, and very, very new structure for the area, the deep seabed development. And the area, this convention put it the common heritage of mankind. So no single state has the right to develop that area unilaterally. So that's the whole picture of the convention is called the Constitution. But if you hear that Constitution, that sounds like that very old-fashioned and obsolete rule book of the international law, but it is not. It is actually evolving. That's today's theme, and because to meet the challenges from the reality, from the international community, the first challenge came from the area, because it brought a very new structure about the system for the area development as a common heritage of mankind. And so it was very costly, and some part very artificial, and some part is very idealistic. So it brought a difficulty for the industrialized countries to join. And even though it was done in 82, and not many industrialized countries joined the convention. So the United Nations those days took initiative to mitigate the difficulties. And then the agreement relating to the implementation agreement was done in 1994. And it opened the door for the industrialized countries to join. For example, in that year, that Australia joined, and Germany joined, and 2 years later, Japan, China, Korea, and several ASEAN countries, and Netherlands and New Zealand joined. So it helped, well, it's called implementation agreement, but actually it amended some part of the convention. So you can clearly see that the Article 2 of the convention, the agreement is above the convention, that part. But in that way, it helped the universality of this convention. Well, sadly enough, the United States is not still the party, but we hope that US will join that convention in the future. And also, the second challenge came from the fishery, because this convention put a new idea of the TAC for the exclusive economic zone, but the fishing stocks, the resource is moving around from the outer limits of EEZ to the high sea. So one country cannot completely manage or conserve the fishing stocks if the other side, that the high sea side, is free taking of the fishery. So and then the convention has the part 7 is the high sea, and the section 2 is about the living resource, but it's only 6 articles, so very principles. So that this time again, another implementation agreement was done in 1995 for those fish stocks moving around from the exclusive economic zone to the high sea, and also the highly migratory fish stocks like the tuna. And now, today, for example, tuna resource, all the high sea is covered by the Regional Fishery Commission. For example, Western, Pacific side, Western and Central Pacific Fish Stocks Commission, and Indian side, Indian Ocean Tuna Commission, and the southern part is Commission for Conservation of South Bluefin Tuna. And those regional fishing organizations are taking care of the scientific research and also deciding the allowable catch for every year. And then, next challenge came from the biodiversity. As you know, that the biodiversity is the important part of the international environmental effort. So the convention was done in 1992, that the Convention for Biological Diversity, CBD. But the CBD has its own limitation because also coming from the jurisdiction. And this convention says the provisions will apply in the area within the limits of the jurisdiction. So what about the other side? So that till the outer limit of the continental shelf is the state party's jurisdiction, but outside of that jurisdiction, nobody cares, or there has been no rule, regulation for the conservation and use of the marine biodiversity. And then this time again, another agreement was done. That was last year, BBNJ. The biodiversity beyond the national jurisdiction was done in last year, June 2023. And this is very important for the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity, but also it is significant because it was done by consensus, where these days it is very difficult. It is almost impossible to make any kind of decision in the international community by consensus. But last year in June, we agreed on this agreement by consensus. It was really significant because then we showed to the world that the multilateral diplomacy still worked. And I'm glad to have this agreement. And then finally, about the climate change. Well, these days, Japan getting hotter and heavy rain, extreme weather, and I understand that the strong typhoon hit Vietnam too, and then we all know the reason. It's the high temperature of the seawater, and it creates the steams, and that steam growing for the heavy rain or the extreme weather, and making stronger typhoons. And then this is from the climate change. And this time, advisory opinion was asked by the Commission of Small Island States in 2022, December, and then this year, the International Tribunal for Law of the Sea, that is my tribunal, unanimously delivered the advisory opinion. And well, actually, this is the former tribunal body, so I did not participate in this deliberation. But anyway, this unanimous advisory opinion concluded this anthropogenic greenhouse gas emission into the atmosphere constitute pollution of marine environment within the meaning of Article 1 of the Convention. So as you see, the Convention was done in 1982, but so nobody talked about the climate change, and there was no words like the greenhouse gas emission. But through this way, the advisory opinion, we put a new meaning, new life to the provisions of the convention. And so now it is each state party's obligation to prevent, reduce, and control the greenhouse gas emission in accordance with this UNCLOS convention. So in this way, through the implementation agreement or new agreement or through the advisory opinion of the tribunal, the UNCLOS is keeping up and evolving to meet the needs of the international community to the reality, and I'm sure that we will continue to this kind of efforts into the future. Thank you very much.
Judge, I thank you for your remarks and for keeping so perfectly to time. Time will not be our friend today. But I'm very pleased that the technology has kept you still online, Scott. I would now like to offer the floor to Assistant Deputy Minister of National Defence, Mr. Scott Miller. The floor is yours.
Great, confirming you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Ambassador. Pleasure to be with you this morning and with you, Judge Horinucci, and thank you to the Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam for the gracious invite. I wish I could be there in person when I heard about the splendid reception that would happen later in the day, and very jealous of the charged agenda that you do have. A lot of great speakers, a lot of great topics to be looking at. Unfortunately, I don't have slides today. You're stuck with my, I think, 10 to 12 foot head on the screens, but in the interest of time, indeed, I will keep to some prepared remarks to make sure that we leave some space for questions should we have that time. So yeah, just thank you so much for this time together. Canada places significant value on its relationship with ASEAN members, including Vietnam. This is evident through our Prime Minister's recent meetings with General Secretary To Lam and Prime Minister Chin on the margins of the Francophonie and ASEAN summits, respectively, where they discuss cooperation with ASEAN and upholding international law. Today, I'll speak to how Canada, in particular National Defence, is committed to upholding UNCLOS and to implementing our Indo-Pacific strategy, and how we view cooperation with ASEAN and dialogue with its member states as central to security in the South China Sea. Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy recognizes the South China Sea as one of the region's key security hotspots. As such, there's no better time to discuss shared values and UNCLOS. As a country with 3 surrounding oceans, we deeply understand the need for maritime security. Our world is interconnected now more than ever, and we're seeing maritime security threats emerge across the globe, from the Black Sea to the Red Sea and to the South China Sea. As many of you know, I think more than I do, every year trillions of dollars worth of trade flow through the South China Sea. It also represents a significant source of the global fish catch, biodiversity, and important oil and gas reserves. This makes it critical to food security, the environment, economic development, and is a valuable energy source. Taken together, these factors make navigating regional security in the South China Sea critical to both global and regional stability. Now, in a world of emerging security threats such as illicit trafficking, climate change, and illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, adherence by all to international law, and particularly UNCLOS, has never been more relevant. The primacy of the rule of law is essential to ensuring peace and prosperity for all our people. It's for this reason that Canada is working closely with its partners in the region to support the rule of law, lawful commerce, navigation, and overflight rights, along with the effective management of maritime resources exercised in accordance with international law. In recent years, we've seen the continued militarization of the South China Sea to reinforce unilateral claims over disputed areas. For example, we are seeing increased forms of lawfare, disinformation, unsafe intercepts, and attacks on fishers. These types of activities are threats to the economies and the safety and security of Indo-Pacific countries, and they affect the safety of all sailors, aviators, soldiers, fishers, and so on, and the rights of all nations to operate peacefully in the international commons. We reaffirm our strong opposition to unilateral actions that threaten the security in the South China Sea and attempt to weaken UNCLOS. This includes the use of naval, coast guard, and maritime militia vessels to intimidate and threaten other states. Canada is supportive of the positive role UNCLOS plays both in the maintenance of the rules-based maritime order and to addressing new and emerging issues in the maritime sphere. This is especially important to avoid the risk of miscalculation in the region, which could have devastating effects. As a Pacific nation and a signatory to UNCLOS, Canada has a role and responsibility to see its implementation in the Indo-Pacific. Our Indo-Pacific strategy and our new defense policy, called Our North Strong and Free, make it clear that the Indo-Pacific security in the Indo-Pacific region is a priority for Canada. And so too is preserving the rules-based international order that protects it. Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy aims to advance and defend our national interests while defending the values that define us: democracy, the rule of law, rules-based trade, peace and security, human rights, and inclusivity. I'm pleased to see the momentum in Canada-Vietnam defense relations, including the visit of one of our frigates to the Ho Chi Minh City port this summer. This visit, along with the continued defense security cooperation with Vietnam, are significant steps in enhancing maritime cooperation and mutual support. It also reflects Canada's commitment to a peaceful and stable Indo-Pacific region. To be clear, our Indo-Pacific strategy intends to expand our regional bilateral and multilateral relationships, and not to contribute to heightened strategic competition. Our strategy is designed to not only enhance our own security and prosperity, but also to contribute to the stability and growth of the region. To implement the strategy, National Defense launched Operation Horizon, which has multiple lines of effort. These include an augmented naval presence, increased Canadian Armed Forces participation in regional exercises, as well as security cooperation activities, including in the area of women, peace, and security. This demonstrates that Canada is an effective, active, consistent, and reliable defense partner, committed to promoting the rule of law and the importance of the rules-based international system. In addition to Operation Horizon, Canada also contributes to multinational efforts alongside our partners, such as monitoring UN Security Council sanctions imposed against North Korea. We've also been strong supporters of peace in the Korean Peninsula, contributing to the United Nations Command in the Republic of Korea for over 70 years now. Canada will continue to operate in the region to support our allies and partners in ensuring the waters of the Indo-Pacific, including the South China Sea, remain free, stable, and prosperous. We also believe in the power of security dialogue and cooperation, which are critical to overcoming common shared challenges and to achieve common interests. That's why Canada is investing in our regional partnerships with ASEAN and its member states across a range of defense and security issues. As a fellow champion of multilateralism and a strategic partner to ASEAN as of 2023, we appreciate how ASEAN brings members together to come to a consensus on issues that affect the region. I would also note the similarities of the Indo-Pacific strategy and the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific, such as deep respect for ASEAN centrality and closer cooperation with member states. From a defense perspective, we remain committed to seeking membership in ADMM Plus and the East Asia Summit, where ASEAN members, when ASEAN members feel that the time is right to do so. While each country has their own approach, domestic dynamics, and defense priorities, we all want the same outcomes of peace and prosperity. We continue to engage and work towards dialogue with a myriad of Indo-Pacific countries. It is our hope that negotiations between ASEAN members and China on a code of conduct for the South China Sea reach a conclusion in the near future. We certainly value the opportunities that ASEAN provides to bring us together, as well as particularly for defense-focused opportunities. For example, last year we participated in the ADMM Plus Experts Working Group on Maritime Security, as well as humanitarian assistance and disaster response. This was a valuable opportunity to exchange expertise and learn from our regional partners. Last year, Canada also co-chaired the 5th ASEAN Regional Forum, or ARF, the workshop on implementing UNCLOS and other instruments to address emerging maritime issues. In 2025, we'll also co-host an ARF workshop on UNCLOS with Vietnam and other partners. Canada understands Vietnam's unique position in the region and its range of defense relationships. We're pleased to see that Vietnam is broadening its relationships with other regional partners such as the Philippines. We will continue to respect every country's position and strengthen our own regional bilateral relationships in support of regional peace and stability. Above all, Canada respects each country's sovereignty and right to chart an independent path. Most importantly, we respect international law and advocate for a path to peace that is marked by stability, cooperation, and dialogue. As we note in our Indo-Pacific strategy, we are keen to work with our partners towards the shared goals of promoting regional and global stability and helping to ensure a peaceful, free, open, and prosperous Indo-Pacific. I look forward to any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Deputy Minister Miller, again for keeping perfectly to time. Now, despite the discipline of our speakers, we still only technically have 4 minutes for questions. So I will open the floor now for 1 or 2 questions, which please ask them very briefly if you would. Yes, sir, in the front row. You are quick.
Good morning. Thank you, Your Excellency, Ambassador, Australia. This is Ambassador of Timor-Leste, John Pereira. My question is referring to His Excellency Dr. Judge Hildisia. Drawing from the norms, principles, we have a principle of lex temporis delicti, meaning that any laws comes into effect later will not be used to judge the actions beyond the law comes into effect. We know that the China 9-dash line came into effect in 1947. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the information I gather from yesterday's presentation. While the UNCLOS was only came into effect in 1982. Can UNCLOS be used as a basis for judging any irregularities or any inconstitutionalities as per the UNCLOS is the Constitution of the Ocean? Because UNCLOS was only came into effect in 1982, while the 9-dash line is 1947. This is pretty much a questions around normative analysis, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Thank you for this, this opportunity to raise this question. Ambassador of Timor-Leste does not put this into risk as Timor-Leste love to have everything through dialogue, as we did with Australia in discussing on coming into agreement of our maritime boundary.
Ambassador,
thank you very much.
We have to give the judge a chance to answer your question. So the question is, can an internationally agreed treaty overrule a unilateral map that was drafted earlier?
Thank you very much. And then the 9-dot line and then the UNCLOS relation is the theme of the arbitration between the China and the Philippines. And China did not participate at all, and China didn't fight that even the jurisdiction. So that China says that this decision was nothing, just a paper. But the arbitration between Philippines and China, and the decision was very clearly said that the China's arguments based on this historic the title it doesn't mean anything. So after this convention, after the ratification by China and then the joined that convention, the historical title does not have any foundation, and so that the UNCLOS above their own historical title. But but it's a decision by the arbitration. It's not the ITROS, and it was the part 7, Annex 7 of the convention that and then the China did not participate, and China is just denying that the meaning of this decision. But the arbitration decided like that way. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Look, I would love to take more questions. Maybe if you could reserve the questions for the next session, because it is also on UNCLOS, and we don't have any more time right now, unfortunately. So I'd like you all to join me in thanking our keynote speakers, Judge Hidehisa and Assistant Deputy Minister of Defence, Scott Miller. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a great conference.
Well, thank you so much, His Excellency, and thank you, our honorable keynote speakers. And now we'll move straight to session 4, also moderated by His Excellency, Mr. Andrew Golezinowski. And can I please invite the ambassador and also the 4 speakers for session 4 on stage, please?